And number 16.
And number 16. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do here, and I believe you can see my screen, but I want to just double check here. If you can see my screen, it says determine whether the given binomial is a factor of the polynomial p of x. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. There are two methods here. The first method is long division, and you'll definitely be asked to do that on a test. And then the other is what's called synthetic division. Have you seen or heard one or both of these?
Yeah, I've heard of both of them. The second one I just heard of, and I was really confused in class.
Okay. Should we do these with synthetic division then?
Yeah, I also have another assignment of synthetic division that I can send over like in 2 minutes or one.
Well, okay. Did this one come out of the long division? Because we should do it the way that they ask you to do.
I'm not really sure which we're supposed to use.
Okay. Well, let's do it with synthetic division. We can always come back and do some long division. So there's a placeholder here. I call this the box. It's not really a box, but it's like an L-shaped place, and you figure out what value makes this equal to 0. So in this case, -1 makes that equal to 0. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. The next thing is I'm going to write down the coefficients of this polynomial. So there's a 2, there's a 2, a -1, a -5, and a -4. Everything I've done up until this point should be fairly straightforward. You're just putting a number in a box, you're writing down these coefficients. Okay. So the next thing you do is you bring this first number down, 2. Then you multiply 2 times -1. That gives you -2. Put the result here. And then you add. So when you add these together, you get 0. And then you repeat. You take 0 times -1. Put the result here. And then you add. So you get -1 here. -1 times -1 is 1. You add vertically. So you're always adding vertically. I'll write that over here. Add vertically. -4 times -1 is +4, and you get a 0 here. If you get a 0, so if this is 0, then yes, it is a factor.
Okay,
So,
I get that.
so let's do another one, right? Like we can't do one and then think you've got it. We're actually going to do number 3. We'll come back to 2 because 2's got a little bit of a wrinkle or a wart or a kind of a little funny business that's not quite the same as the other one.
Okay.
So number 3, here's number 3. So the number that goes in this L-shaped box here is the number that makes this equal to 0. What number makes that equal to 0?
Which number equal to 0? Sorry.
This right here, this 2x minus 4. What makes 2x minus 4 equal to 0? What value of x?
2.
2. That's what goes there. Now we just bring the coefficients down. We got a 2, a -4. So notice that the sign goes with it. +2. You know what? I'm sorry. This one does have the exception here. Notice how there's not an x cubed here. This one's got an exception in it. So if there's not an x cubed, if there's not, see how it goes 5, 4, missing the 3, 2, 1, 0. You have to put that one in. So there's actually a 0x cubed, and that goes here. Then this 2 comes here, this -2 comes here, and then -4 here. I didn't catch that at first, but if it's missing an exponent, you have to put it in, but you put a 0 as the leading term. You always do that.
Okay.
So that's not the synthetic division. The synthetic division is bring the 2 down. Okay, I brought the 2 down. What is 2 times 2? 4. Now add vertically. Add vertically is 0. What is 0 times 2? That's 0. Add vertically. 0. 0 times 2 is 0 again. 2, you're adding. You're adding vertically. It's really key to remember that you add vertically, because sometimes you start multiplying. You get 2 here. 2 times 2 is 4. Add vertically, you get positive 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and you get a 0. Since this is a 0, yes, 2x minus 4 is a factor.
Okay.
So we're gonna do another one. We're not gonna just leave you hanging here. We can go back to number 2. So number 2, I'm gonna do a little bit of writing out first. P of x here, it's missing the x term. See how there's no x term here?
Yeah.
So I have to replace it with 0x. And you really should do that before you do the synthetic division. So you got to figure out what goes in the box. That's whatever makes this equal to 0, whatever x minus 2 equals 0. What number goes here?
2.
2 again. And then we put the coefficients 5, 1, 0, and negative 7. 5, 1, 0, and negative 7. What most students forget or it's not clear from the beginning is that you have to add in this term, because you can still sort of do the synthetic division. You just do it wrong if you don't put that in.
Mm.
And then there's an issue of like, do you understand how to do the synthetic division? So you always bring the first number down, always, okay? Then you multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. You add vertically. That's 11. 11 times 2 is 22. You add vertically. 22 times 2 is 44. You add vertically. So this is not 0. Not 0. So no, x minus 2 is not a factor. If you did get 0, it would be a factor.
Okay, I get that.
Okay, so we're gonna do some more of this. I'm gonna grab question 4. It looks like you end up using Desmos in a later problem. I'm gonna do it for this one. Let me get my screen to where I can share it. So I'm gonna do a new share, and you're gonna see the Desmos screen here. And do you know how to use Desmos?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so then I'm just going to graph this thing, and x cubed plus x squared minus x. Oh, I have a wrong thing there. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to snip this graph into our workspace, then I'm going to switch back to what we were working on, and then we'll talk about it. Slight limitation of what we're doing, but you will new share. Okay, we should be back on the same screen you were seeing before. Factor each expression. Okay, to factor, you need to know the zeros. Okay, so in this case, -1 is a 0. So is +1. It's a 0 because it touches or crosses the x-axis. Is that clear? Have you seen that from class?
Yes.
Okay, so we're trying to decide if like x plus 1 is a factor. And x plus 1, that corresponds to this one up here. That's x plus 1.
Okay.
Because what number makes that 0? -1. And that's what we have here at the graph. Now we need the coefficients of the problem we were looking at. Let me see if I can get that back on the screen. So we're looking at, I'll just write factor of x cubed plus x squared minus x minus 1. This is a coefficient of 1 in front of x cubed. This is a coefficient of 1 in front of x squared, minus 1 in front of x, and then minus 1. So we're just right. There's your 1, 1, minus 1, minus 1. So I want you to try this one on your own. You should get 0 here at the end. Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Try that out, and we'll see how you do.
Sorry, I did it wrong the first time.
That's okay. This is your first independent practice, as they say. Bring the 1 down, you multiply, you get -1. When you add, you get 0. 0 times -1 is 0. Bring down the -1. Multiply times -1, you get 1. And you get 0 there. So this is something that they might not be telling you in class, but we go ahead and cover it here. When it touches like this, it's considered a double root, which means it's a factor twice. So that means you have to try -1 again. So I'm going to put -1 here, and you actually just bring these coefficients down. These just get brought down. So try the synthetic division again. You should be able to bring them down and get 0 at the end.
Yeah, I got 0.
Great. Okay. So it's actually, like, if we go back to what the original problem was, it said, can you factor this expression, x cubed plus x squared minus x minus 1. So it ends up factoring to x plus 1, x plus 1. That's from these two here. What was the other factor from the graph? Do you remember? Or the other 0 from the graph? See there it's at 1. That corresponds to x minus 1.
Oh, okay.
So this topic's kind of different than the one here. Are you supposed to use some sort of factoring technique for these? Maybe factor by grouping?
I'm not really sure how to do that one either, but
Okay.
I had an assignment called that.
Okay, so I kind of went off on a tangent there. We should redo this problem with factor by grouping, because that's, I think, what they wanted. I'm really sorry. I was just going off thinking, well, we're doing synthetic division. Let's keep going here.
It's okay.
So my apologies.
I need to learn. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so if it said factor by grouping, I would have said, oh yeah, we're going to do that. So here's factor by grouping. You take the first two things here, x cubed plus x squared, and you say, what is common between them? And you say, well, an x for sure, but it's actually x squared. And then you figure out, well, what do I put in here so that when I distribute the x squared, I get back to x cubed plus x squared? So here's the answer. And I want you to believe that. I want you to realize that if you take x squared multiplied by x, you get x cubed. If you take x squared multiplied by 1, you get x squared. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the next part. You immediately write what's in parentheses over here, along with a placeholder. Placeholder means you're going to put something in there. So what do you put here? It's a number usually. What number do you put here so that when you multiply by x, you get -x, and you multiply by 1, you get -1? Any idea?
-1.
-1. Now, another name for this is called double factoring, because you end up factoring twice. Hence the word double factoring. If I look at what I've boxed and what I've boxed, I'm going to rewrite it. What is the same in both of them? What is the same in both those boxes? Well, it's the x plus 1. So you can actually factor out an x plus 1 in both of them. So when I factor out an x plus 1, they're both gone. What's left over?
X squared and
X squared
-1.
minus 1. Now, one of the things that's challenging about factoring is you kind of never know when you're done, because you have to start over again. Like, can I factor x plus 1? No. Can you factor x squared minus 1? Yes. This is difference of squares. Have you seen that before?
Yeah.
Okay. So difference of squares says if I have a squared minus b squared, this equals a minus b times a plus b. In your case, you have x squared minus 1 squared. 1 squared is 1. So this produces x minus 1, x plus 1. So everything we just talked about is for this stuff over here on the right. So this x squared minus 1 becomes x minus 1 times x plus 1. And then you bring this x plus 1 down. The factor by grouping, it ended, this ended about right there. And then we switched to factoring of difference of squares.
Okay.
Hopefully this makes more sense after we do the next one.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're going to do factor by grouping again. What is common between the first two terms there? For sure an x, but is it x to a higher power?
X squared.
X squared. So what do you write here so that when you multiply by x squared, you get back to x cubed plus 5x squared? Hopefully you get that. Now this is the important part. You take this and you immediately rewrite it over here, x plus 5. Whatever's in parentheses, x plus 5. And then you're trying to figure out, what do I put here? So when I multiply by x, I get negative 4x, and I multiply by 5 to get negative 20. It has to be the same number. So in this case, that is negative 4. So I'm just going to rewrite it here. You don't have to rewrite it. If you have good handwriting, you can just get it all in one line here. When I look at this, there's something common between both of them. This is the double factoring step. There's an x plus 5 that's common to both. So when I get rid of that, what's left over? The x squared minus 4. This is difference of squares. So I'd like you to finish off this problem. I'll rewrite the difference of squares formula over here if you need it. And I want you to tell me the final factored form. So we're going to bring the x plus 5 down. Tell me what x squared minus 4 factors into. Maya, how are you doing with that?
I'm just like kind of confused.
Okay, so x squared minus 4, I'm going to write it over here. X squared minus 4 is like x squared minus 2 squared. Do you agree with that? 2 squared is 4?
Yes.
Okay, so what this formula says is that a is x and b is 2. So instead of A, I'm going to write X. Instead of B, I'm going to write 2. Instead of A, I'm going to write, oops, I wrote a B, not a 2.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that before. Okay. Instead of B, I'm going to write a 2. Okay, so this part replaces this part x squared minus 4. So it becomes x minus 2, x plus 2. And maybe I didn't make it clear in the last one. This is your final answer. Let me scroll up and just put that down for your final answer there. 6 is the same, so we're going to do it. Hopefully, a little bit more of a comfort level on these things. The factor by grouping is something that you'll do when you see 4 terms like this. That's one of the things you're looking for. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Another thing you're looking for is like an x cubed. That's usually a pretty good indicator that it's a factor by grouping or double factoring. So let's do the same thing. Let's look at the first 2. What is common between them? This time it's both a number and a letter or a variable to a power. So between 8 and 4, what's the smallest number that goes into both? And it's a 4. I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the lesson. I'm going to send you the notes as a PDF and a video recording link of this. Usually within the hour after my last lesson. You're my last lesson. So if you're struggling to catch up, I should have mentioned that to you. I haven't done a new student like you in a while, so I forgot to mention that.
Okay, thank you. I was like, oh, I wish I could screen record this.
Already taken care of that. Okay, between x cubed and x squared, what is common between them?
4x squared.
4x squared. So what goes in parentheses? What do you put here to get to 8x cubed and 4x squared?
2x
Plus 1. And then you immediately write that over here, 2x plus 1. Whatever you've got there, you're figuring out, what do I put here so that when you multiply in, and that's -1. Now you're going to factor out the 2x plus 1. It's 2x plus 1 from both. And when those are gone, you're left with 4x squared minus 1. Now, believe it or not, this 4x squared minus 1 is a difference of squares. I'm going to show you that here. 2x squared, if you put 2x in parentheses and you square it, you get back to 4x squared, because 2 squared is 4, x squared is x squared, minus 1 squared. So in this case, this is your a, and this is your b. So we're going to write a minus b, a plus b, except your a is 2x. So you're going to write 2x minus your b is 1, 2x plus your b, which is 1 again. It's always a negative here. This is always negative, so you don't have to worry about, is it negative b? It's always positive. These things are always positive, and then you bring this 2x plus 1 down. Okay, we really should do a few more of those, but I think you said you had another assignment you want to get to, so I can quickly do 16. Do you have that other assignment that you can send to me by email?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Let me know when I can have your attention again so that I can run through this problem. Um,
Okay.
I'm going to snip back the graph and then we can talk about what they actually want you to do. So let's new share. Let's go back to our lesson. All right, so ready for you whenever you are ready to talk about this.
I sent it.
You sent the next assignment.
Yeah.
Okay, we can get to that really soon, but let's just talk about this one. The volume of a cargo container is modeled by the function given here. So that's what I graphed. You said you've used Desmos, so you're comfortable with that. Identify the values for which v of x equals 0. So I actually have those here. It's right there. Boom, 1, 2, and 3. So there's this relationship between a 0 and a factor. X minus your 0 is what we call a factor. So it works pretty straightforward. Um, it works pretty straightforward for the positive ones. Like, do you see how 7 is a 0 there?
Yes.
So x minus 7 is a factor. Where it's a little bit more unclear is when it's negative. So for -2, it's x minus, I'm going to put it in parentheses, -2. We know that that simplifies to x plus 2. How about this other one, -5? X minus a minus 5. X plus 5. So you could make up your own rules if you wanted. Like, if it's negative, make it positive. If it's positive, make it negative. That's fine. You have to understand the relationship that it's always x minus the 0.
Okay.
All right. Can we move to the next one here?
Yeah.
I like the title of your email. It says due 15. I like that. That's very clear.
I I copied and pasted what my teacher sent
Okay.
in the
It's
assignment.
it's better. I think it's better to be clear and direct than to be unclear. Some people say to be unclear is to be unkind, um, but that's not math. So we're going to focus on math here. Okay, so number 15 is, got it. Okay, this one actually says to divide using long division. Okay, so glad to see that. You're going to get a test or a quiz question that says, thou shall divide by long division. And it's very different than synthetic division. So you got to be able to do at least one. So if I went back and I said, what is 37 divided by 8? You used to use words like outside the house, I would put the 8. Well, that's where the x plus 2 goes. And inside the house goes this other thing. There's one little wrinkle, one little caveat is that you do have to put the descending order. So 3 exponents. This is a 3, this is a 2, this is a 1, this is 0. If you were missing one, which we'll probably see in the next problem, you have to fill it in with a 0. I'll try to explain that again and do a better job when we actually see it. So this is the setup. Like if you were to come over here and do 8 into 37, that's the setup. Sometimes when you're learning it, it's good to kind of have that thought bubble of like, oh yeah, that's how I set this thing up. All right, so this is where it gets a little bit dicey because it's very different. We really want to get a 1x cubed. What do we multiply x by to get 1x cubed? Well, it ends up being 1x squared. So 1x squared times x gives you 1x cubed. So I'm multiplying and putting the result down here. Then you multiply by the 2. That gives you 2x squared. Now over here, if we know that 4 goes into 8 8 goes into 37 4 times. We'd put the 32 here. What's the next operation that we do in this division up here in the top left?
Multiply?
Subtract.
Oh, subtract.
So we're going to subtract this. Now I'm going to put it in parentheses though, and this is where it gets a little bit kind of uncomfortable because a lot of times you want to move that negative in, and you absolutely can. For now, let's just leave it as is. So it's 1x cubed minus 1x cubed, and that produces 0. We want that. We expect that. 2x squared minus 2x squared gives you 0 as well. Now you may not remember this over here, but so you end up getting a 5 over here when you do this, and you're like, what do I do next? Well, there's really a 0 here, so you bring that 0 down. Do you remember doing that many years ago?
Yeah.
So you end up bringing this minus 1x minus 2 down. So you ask yourself this question: what do I multiply x by to get minus 1x? Well, that's minus 1. And the minus 1 goes in the position with the number. It doesn't go here in the x. If it had an x, it'd go in the position, the column with the x, but it's a number, so it goes here. So we're going to take this minus 1 and multiply it by x. Minus 1 times x is minus 1x. Minus 1 times 2 is minus 2. Again, you're going to subtract. This is, again, just it's a little bit awkward because it's negative 1x minus a minus 1x. That makes this positive. So that becomes 0. Then it's minus 2 minus a minus 2. It's like minus 2 plus 2, and that also becomes 0. So you may have, maybe like, oh my gosh, how do we even do this? Well, you have to keep in mind, this is the answer up here. This is what they're looking for. This is what's called the quotient. You might have seen that rule. That's what your instructor is looking for. Like this whole thing, this 15 right here equals 1x squared minus 1. Like that's what it's looking for.
Oh, okay.
I don't particularly like this example that they had you do first, but we'll go with it here. So we're going to do 17 next, and hopefully, I don't really like the fact that we're doing 17x, but that's the next one you've got listed here. What's good for learning isn't necessarily good for homework because you need to do a few more problems to kind of build in to like what you're doing here. And then they've chosen to do it this way. So there's nothing I can do. X to the 6th minus 4x to the 5th. So see how we're going down by 1? Is there an x to the 4th here? No. So you have to write plus 0x to the 4th minus 7x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 0. So we had to add in a bunch of these extra ones. Do you see that? Now this 2x cubed, it goes outside the box. And then inside the box, we got to write this whole mess here. X to the 6th minus 4x to the 5th minus 7x cubed divided by 2x squared. Oh, I messed up. I added one. Oops. Let me just get rid of that. Okay, so plus 0x to the 4th minus 7x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 0. All right, and this goes here. Okay, so you're trying to get an x to the 6th. So what do you multiply x cubed by to get x to the 6th?
X to the 4th?
X to the 3rd. So I'm going to put that here. Problem is, though, is it doesn't give you x to the 6th when you multiply. It gives you 2x to the 6th. So I'm going to put a half here. So a half x cubed times 2x cubed gives you x to the 6th.
Okay.
And then we're going to subtract. And do you see how those cancel?
Yeah.
They're supposed to. Now this one's nice. You don't need to bring all this down. Let's just bring the first one down. And it's the same question again. You ask yourself, what do I multiply 2x cubed by to get minus 4x to the fifth? Well, let's just deal with the x. So it's x squared. X squared times x cubed gives you x to the fifth. What do you multiply 2 by to get negative 4?
-2.
Negative 2. So when you multiply these, you get negative 4x to the fifth. And then you're subtracting it. And then those cancel. So you could bring down this 0x to the fourth, but there's nothing there. So you end up just bringing this one down next. And you ask yourself, what do you multiply x cubed by to get, or what do you multiply 2x cubed by over here to get minus 7x cubed? Well, you've already got the cube, okay? So what it's a little bit of a weird question. It's like, what do you multiply 2 by to get negative 7? and you probably know that that's negative 3.5. So let's call it negative 7 halves. Okay, so negative 7 halves times 2x cubed gives you negative 7x cubed. You subtract it, and then those go away. If that was unclear, you need to do a few more practice problems. We'll definitely try and make time here for them, but let me just keep going to make sure you at least get all the answers and the work shown, and then you can look at the notes or the video
Okay, thank
later.
you. Yeah,
The
that one
nice,
was harder than the first, like way harder.
yeah, no, see, nobody wants to do long division after they learn synthetic division.
Mm.
That's why they teach long division first. Okay, so synthetic division. We've already done a few of these, so this should go a little bit faster. First thing you figured out is what number makes this 0? What number for x makes that 0? And that is? What number makes x plus 1 equal to 0?
1.
Negative 1.
Oh, -1. Oh my gosh.
Negative 1. So now we bring down the coefficients. So the coefficients are 1x squared, 5 for the 5x, and then a 6. See how it goes from 2 to 1 to 0? We don't need to add any in there. That's another little thing you got to look for. Now, this one does not work, so we're not going to get a 0 here. So bring a 1 down, then you multiply. 1 times -1 is -1. You add these together to get 4. 4 times -1 is -4. And then you get a 2 here. So this last number is called the remainder. You're used to having that remainder be 0. This right here is called your quotient. And this is your divisor. And the reason I'm giving you all this, I'm gonna use Q, and D, and R. Your solution is always the quotient plus remainder over divisor. And if you haven't seen that in class, hopefully you will, or hopefully this isn't the first time you're seeing that. If it is, let me know.
My like I had missed the day where we did this, so that's why
Okay.
I there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me write out the solution, and I'll try to explain with numbers. So the quotient is 1 plus 4, except this x squared 5x plus 6. When you divide, it goes down by a degree. So this 1 is really 1x plus 4. And that comes from this. The squared goes down by 1 to be x. The 5x goes down to be no x at all. Your remainder is a number. That's 2. That's your remainder. Your divisor isn't -1. It's x plus 1. So your final answer here is x plus 4 plus 2 over x plus 1. Your instructor may be happy with just getting to this point here with the remainder.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm coming at this kind of blind, so it's kind of like,
Oh no, it's good.
not sure what your well, it's always a guess here. Okay, let me snip in 21 and we'll work on that. Are you doing any in-person school right now, or is it all online?
It's all online.
All online.
We were
Okay.
gonna go back, but then the cases spiked and they said we can't.
Yeah, I've heard that from quite a number of my people who book lessons.
Mhm.
Okay. So what number makes x plus 8 equal to 0?
-8.
-8. So that's what goes in the box. And then the coefficients are what go over here. So I want you to try synthetic division here on your own, and the remainder will not be 0.
So the remainder is the last number, right?
Yeah, what what I'm trying to get you to do is just to work through one of these on your own. I mean, if we
I
were
got
side by
negative.
side, I'd put my pencil down and say, here you go.
Uh-huh.
I can't do that in this format though. So I'm asking politely that you try this one on your own.
Yeah, I got the negative. I got -2.
Okay. Excellent. So that's your remainder. This is your quotient and this is your divisor. So we're going to write quotient plus remainder over divisor. Your quotient goes down by 1 degree. So that means that 1 really is 1x plus 1. And then your remainder is -2, and your divisor comes from up here. That's your divisor, x plus 8.
Okay, I got that.
Okay, so we definitely have time to finish up the last two here. I'll do my best to give a reasonable explanation. Might feel slightly rushed, but do my best here. One of the things that the book will do, and you're probably seeing your test, is it says, let me get the wording here. It says, use synthetic substitution to evaluate the polynomial for the given value. And you might think to yourself, well, why can't I just put the number into the polynomial? Well, you could, but that's not what they want you to do. They want you to do it differently. So the difference here is you put 4 in the box. And the reason is because if you were to subtract 4 from both sides of this equation, you'd get x minus 4 equals 0. And if I said, well, what number makes this 0? You would say 4. So that's why 4 goes in the box.
Okay.
The coefficients come down. So that's 2, -5, -3. Go ahead and try your synthetic division here and let me know what you come up with.
Okay. I got -9.
Okay, so bring the 2 down, you get 8, 3. 3 times 4 is 12. I get positive 9. Is that what you said?
No, I said negatives.
-9. Okay, do you see that there? So this 9, this remainder, this is the key though. This is what I need you to have a very good understanding of, is that the remainder is evaluating the polynomial at 4.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're going to do this though for real, meaning we're going to evaluate the polynomial and just see if I'm right. So all I did was put 4 in for x. So this is 2 times 16, that's 32, minus 20 minus 3. Does this equal 9? What do you say? Hopefully you say yes. It does work. It does work. So there's why this works, that's different than just doing it. We're just doing stuff right now. We're making cookies. We're not worrying about why the eggs, the flour, the sugar, all that stuff mixes together so
Hmm.
nicely. We just like, yeah, hey, it works.
Yeah.
All right, so this polynomial of x, it is missing some terms. It's missing an x like that. So the number that goes in the box is -1. Okay, because if you were to if you said x equals -1 and you add 1 to both sides, you would get x plus 1 equals 0, and you'd say, oh, if x is -1, that's when it equals 0. Now you're going to bring down all these coefficients, including the 0. That's super important here. All right, so give this one a try. See if you can come up with the result after doing that.
I got -6 for the remainder.
Okay, so let me see here. I get 9, 0, 9, negative. You get -6 as a remainder. So what this is saying is that when you put -1 in for x, you get -6. So let me show you that here. P of -1 equals 4 times -1 cubed. So I'm just putting that -1 into the x values here. Minus 5 times -1 squared plus 3. Let's see if this does equal 6. So this is -4. This is minus 5 plus 3. This does equal -6.
Okay, I understand that one better.
Awesome. We did cover a lot tonight, so it like I would normally want to break up like synthetic division or long division into like 20 minutes, uh,
Mhm.
synthetic division into like 20 or 30 minutes, and give you more practice problems, which you didn't do.
Mhm.
You can certainly catch up. I am going to send you the notes and the screen recording here shortly, probably within the hour. It just takes a little bit of time for it to upload. Since this is my last lesson, you'll see that in your inbox within the hour.
Okay.
Thanks so much for booking, and I look forward to helping you again.
Yeah, I'll be back. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night. Bye now.
You too.